I'm just trying to figure out how, when I make less money than she does, how my year to date is more than hers. My suspension of child support for Rayleigh was granted right here with the court paper, and that was coming out of my paycheck still. Nobody's telling me they're going to give me my money back.
Motion for modification of child support filed August 28th. Assume that's what you're dealing with today, Ms. Harper?
Yes, Your Honor. So I talked to both parties. Mr. Geist wanted to dispute the income on both parties. So as you know, we typically just ask that they provide income information. The reason I asked you to come is because Mr. Geist was very insistent on wanting to speak to you, including stating things such as, well, I've sent the judge information. I want to speak to the judge in a breakout room. I explained that you don't speak to parties in breakout rooms or consider information not presented in court.
Yeah, you can speak with Ms. Harper in a breakout room, but any communication you have with me needs to be in open court. Okay?
Right.
Okay. And he did have some paperwork delivered to the clerk of the court. And did you provide copies of that to Ms. Harper, Mr. Geist?
No, she should have all of them because I'm sure they all came from her.
Okay. Well, you can't just send it to the court. You need to send it to opposing counsel.
I'm just trying to figure out how, when I make less money than she does, how my year to date is more than hers.
Ms. Harper, what do you have in the way of income verification for the parties?
Give me 1 second, Judge, to pull up my notes from that. So we used her income by looking at pay stubs that had been provided to us, including looking at the year to date on that. Mr. Geist's income came from his DRA, which included pay stubs, and we also had an EVL for him.
You also had a what?
Employment verification letter.
Okay. So are you disputing those amounts, Mr. Geist?
I don't know. I just want it over with, but I just don't see how she makes more income than I do, and hers is less than mine every year. It doesn't make any sense.
What do you mean she makes more income, but hers is less? What of hers is less?
Her year to date on the child support worksheet. She makes almost $3 more than I do an hour, but yet my year to date's over hers.
Okay. Well, that probably has to do with the deductions that are being taken out, unless it's a gross year to date. If it's a net year to date, there's probably
It's saying on there the gross annual incomes.
Your Honor, I think you're referring to the income on the child support worksheet, not any year to date.
Yes, on the worksheet. And I know that in our court papers that we had on the same deal through you, that she was supposed to pay 50-50 like I was, and that's not happening either.
50-50 on the unpaid medicals?
Yeah, like and keep insurance and everything, and she sent papers to Jennifer Harper saying that I'm not keeping insurance on the kids and everything else. Well, we're both supposed to keep insurance. And then with the current child support she's paying right now, she says, I pay you child support so you can afford all that. But actually, I got 4 children in my house that 2 other ones are off this case that I'm paying for.
Okay, let me make sure I understand this case. So I'm going to put you both under oath real quick. Okay, both of you need to be aware that if we can't resolve this in short order, we'll need to continue it and have a more extensive hearing. I do have a 10 o'clock that I'm late for. They're going to patiently wait a few minutes for us, but I've got another hearing. So Ms. Jessica Jensen, would you raise your right hand, please? Subject to the penalties for perjury in the state of Kansas.
I do.
Thank you. And you submitted your domestic relation affidavit,
Yes.
and you're showing 2 children from this relationship, CG and LG,
Yes.
born 2011 and 2014.
Yes.
You also have RJ born in 2010.
Yes.
Salary you listed is true and correct.
Yes.
How many hours a week do you work?
40.
You work a 40-hour week?
Yeah.
And Ms. Harper, those are the hours, that's what you used to put in your child support worksheet?
We looked at the pay stub using the year to date and divide that by the number of pay stubs. So
Okay.
if she's worked 40 hours every week, then that would be accurate. Which, yes, Your Honor, that is the amount that's currently on the child support worksheet.
Okay. And that is the correct amount.
One,
Child support worksheet. Michael Geist, you also filled out your domestic relation affidavit.
The judge, are you going to put him under oath?
Oh, I'm sorry, Mr. Michael Geist, raise your right hand. You solemnly swear and or affirm that you will tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, subject to the penalties for perjury in the state of Kansas.
yes,
Okay. And on your domestic relation affidavit, you have these two children, CG and LG listed, and you have two additional children,
yep,
AG and RG,
yep,
born in 2007 and 2009.
yes,
Okay, and you've looked at that, Ms. Harper. And you listed an income on your domestic relation affidavit. Is that true and correct?
yes.
And you work a 40-hour week?
That's the thing there. My paychecks say I work in all this overtime, like 10 hours overtime, but I signed a piece of paper when I started this job to work 8 to 5:30. That's a 40-hour work week.
Well, depending on how long of a lunch hour you're taking, 8 to 5:30, if you take a
Yeah, taking out,
1 hour lunch break, you're working an extra 2.5 hours a week.
and then that's why I gave you a paper from my work, which you can't see. So I'm losing that 2.5 hours too during that week too. Another 2.5 hours off my paycheck
What do you mean you're losing it?
when I clock out. When we clock out for lunches, because the paychecks I submitted was when I was not taking a lunch at work, is what I submitted. Now they gave us a mandatory, we have to take lunches because I'm a delivery driver. I can't take a lunch. I'm on the road. So now we're mandatory to take lunches. So we have to clock out of the time clock while we take our lunches, which that makes my income go down. So I lose what I submitted to her was the 3 paychecks that was not clocking out. That's why I had overtime on it.
Okay, but you testified that you work from 8 to 5:30. How long of a lunch break are you taking?
We're supposed to take an hour.
Okay, if you're working 8 to 5:30, Monday through Friday?
Yeah.
And you're taking an hour for lunch.
Every day.
You're working 42.5 hours a week. And Ms. Harper, you based it on pay stubs?
Yes, Your Honor, which apparently he is now claiming that the overtime that was included on those pay stubs is no longer occurring.
Well, he's getting some, he's still getting overtime, but not as much. Instead of
Yes.
getting 5 hours a week, he's getting 2.5 hours a week. Or I'm sorry, instead of 7.5, he's getting 2.5 because he's taking an hour for lunch now, mandatory. So the difference is going to be, you'd have $7,208 less than what you've listed as his gross annual income.
And sorry, Judge, but how much would that be per month?
Okay, 20.
Okay.
Okay, and you've made modifications for the multiple family on both.
Sure, Your Honor.
That's what's showing here. Okay. So you can run that through with those numbers.
Sorry, Judge, just wanted to make sure everything was still accurate. So with that numbers, it would be 732 per month.
Okay. Mr. Geist, I'm going to order you to continue to submit your pay stubs to Ms. Harper so we can verify that income has gone down on you're taking the lunch hours and not getting the extra 5 hours of overtime every week.
Okay.
Okay?
Yep.
So 7:32.
Yes, Your Honor.
Any objections, Ms. Jensen?
That would be how much I paid monthly.
Yes.
So it would go up from 426 to 732.
Yes.
So
The
how,
worksheet submitted was showing 713 and it would go to 732.
right, which, I mean, does it make a difference if I have health insurance on them at all? Probably not, even though it's his
Yes,
obligation.
if you're paying health insurance,
Well, I filed through the state on September 3rd. I have yet to hear back. I know their process takes a little longer, but they should have health insurance soon since they haven't had it for over a year and need new glasses and dentists and everything. So,
if you're paying for health insurance, that would affect it. You'd need to get that information to Ms. Harper.
yeah, I will. Once I
And
get,
until we have that information, the court's going to adopt the worksheet as submitted by Ms. Harper.
okay. And
Okay?
then how much would that make my garnishments go up every paycheck? Because,
That you can speak to Ms. Harper about.
okay,
Okay?
No, Your Honor, she is current on her child support, so it would just be the 732 per month.
I was curious if I actually have overpaid.
That you'll have to speak to Ms. Harper about.
Okay,
Okay?
Yeah.
And she can print that out. I mean, you can go online and look at it, and see all your payments, and do the math as to what was owed and what you've paid.
yeah, oh, I
I
do.
know Ms. Harper, I don't have access to it. There's a separate section of it where she can pull it up and it shows whether there's an arrearage or not. I have to go through and do all the math like anyone else. She can pull up an arrearage section, so speak to Ms. Harper about that.
Okay,
Okay? So stay on with Ms. Harper. She can look at that. I'm gonna jump off unless you need me for anything else, Ms. Harper.
I do have another case with you.
Today?
Yeah, it was set at the same time. It was
Judge.
set at 9 o'clock with Channing too at the same time.
Judge, that was a suspension motion, which was due to a child residing with him. He agreed with that. The other party did not appear, and so the order would be granted. I'm not sure if you really want to take up a case when the motion is going to be granted. When I spoke with him earlier, he essentially wanted to discuss items that were not related to that actual motion.
Well, actually, it is related to it because it says the same 87, the EL 10 DM 87, and my suspension of child support for Rayleigh was granted right here with the court paper from Ellis County, November 1st of 2023, and that was coming out of my paycheck still from like 3 or 4 months ago, and nobody's telling me they're going to give me my money back.
Okay, Mr. Geist, if you believe you've overpaid, you need to file a motion.
Well, yeah, I tried that in the Ellis County Court, and they tried to tell me it cost me another $75 to do that.
I can't rule on a motion that's not before the court. So you speak to Ms. Harper. If you can't work it out, then file a motion with the court.
I've been, like I told Miss Harper, I've been calling them, and they've been sending it to their legal team. I've been dealing with them for 4 months now, and I've got some payments back, but I haven't got all of it back.
Well, that you need to deal with Ms. Harper. If you're not satisfied, you can file a motion, but I can't rule on it without a motion being in front of the court.
Okay.
Okay?
Alrighty.
So you can stay on with her. And Ms. Jensen, if you want to stay on, she can hopefully have time to peek and see if there's been an overpayment. I'm going to jump off and go do my 10 o'clock. Okay?
Alrighty.
have a good day.
Okay. Have a good day. Just let them finish out if they need to. And Ms. Harper, you'll do the orders?
Yes, sir.